And we're live. Welcome to the Power Edition of OK Boomer, an unscheduled talk today with Steve Ferreira, CEO of Ocean Audit. I'm your host of OK Boomer Live. This is live TV. You're watching LinkedIn Live featuring Steve Ferreira's Today's afternoon show is the Power Edition of OK Boomer, a very short edition where we talk about a little bit of the wrap-up work I've been seeing in the last 24 hours. It's great to be here with you guys. I don't need this earpiece. Actually, one of the reasons why I wanted to come on board is you're gonna find this guy is kind of funny, but I invested so much in technology on my studio, and I also thought, this is the year I'm going to be traveling, so I had my tailor make all these suits for me, and they've been sitting in New York, and I just finally said, look, they're not going to do you any good sitting in your tailor shop in New York City. Send them to me, and I'll model them for the OK Boomer show. So that's what we're doing. We're going to do the brand new garments, and this guy is great. Shout out to Izzy, and I'll give you more information on Izzy and his tailoring, but I don't think you guys are going to need it for a while. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today is had a great talk yesterday, filming some pre-tape material for some upcoming TV segments. And I was talking to one of my really good friends, Dan Gardner, and we were talking about, in general, what are some of the hot spots happening now in trade. And I was looking at China holistically from an invoicing perspective. I love to look at the number of invoices that are coming out of a given country or region. And one of the things that's really interesting about China is that as of this moment in time, there's 42 million ocean invoices that were issued from January 2020 to August 24th, 2020. 42 million, and the year before, 39 million. So we have a net increase of 3 million ocean freight invoices. And a pretty good chunk of that, I'd say 25% of that is actually an increase over last year in smaller size shipments. So less than container load, small parcel shipments, right? Coming in by ocean freight. And so it's remarkable that I think the parts and the components that we're starting to see come in may start to lend credibility to a more robust manufacturing facility in the U.S., where we have components and parts coming in for add-on work, here in the U.S. of products. And of course, we just can't get away from the e-commerce type materials coming in for Amazon and Target and Walmart, looking at the incredible substantial jumps that those folks have been getting in their numbers. But one of the other really big topics to talk about is the Chinese electric auto manufacturer, BYD, and they're supplying the state of California the PPE masks. And one of the things that's really interesting, is here's a factoid. If you take one thing away from our Power Hour today, by the way, you're watching the Power Hour of OK Boomer Live. I'm Steve Ferreira, your host, CEO of Ocean Audit. If you take one thing away from the story on BYD manufacturing masks for the state of California, it's that approximately 2 million masks fit inside a 40-foot container. And what's more remarkable is that California has agreed to pay BID approximately $3 and some 11 cents per mask, making a container value of mask about $6 million or so. And that is really a very high price, to pay for PPE, N95, and surgical masks. However, I see California's point in trying to co-opt the marketplace and have their own supply. So I'm just monitoring that right now. I see tons of containers coming in, and as of yesterday, I see a whole bunch that just arrived into the port of Los Angeles. Let me just double check that. Yeah, and these arrived on August 24th. Yeah, so they arrived yesterday, sitting in the port of LA. but just we're probably at about 75 containers now. So think about the expense on that PPE. It's quite dramatic. But the numbers, 42 million invoices versus 39 million. It's not all PPE. PPE is a small part of that. Remember, PPE likes to move by air. That's what's kept your air freight rates fat and happy, to the chagrin of controllers and finance folks that are monitoring the logistics cost overruns. And hey, are you guys? Is this happening to you guys? I mean, if you're a logistics leader, are you getting your controllers and finance folks coming to you and saying, hey, what's with all the cost overruns? I mean, if you think about it, the spot rates that moved that 42 million invoice level, spot rates around 3,500 or so, blended average between West Coast and East Coast. And last year it was around 2,500, maybe less. So the cadence of what's being paid out, both in fixed contracts and spot rates, is extremely remarkable. And who's paying for it? And we have the China tariffs on top of that, right? So have we just become immune to the China tariffs? And is it just something we're living with, and we don't mind paying those prices? Because frankly, I don't see those tariffs going away, even with a potential new administration. Biden says he'd take a look at eliminating them, but he walked back those comments. So I think we're still dealing with the high preponderance of China 301 trade tariffs, right? And we seem to be absorbing that. But we also seem to have to be absorbing higher costs, at the cash register, right? So have you noticed on Amazon some of these costs are creeping up? Well, that's because, you have to build in, transportation, right? I mean, if a container of laptops from China costs $1.50 in terms of the transportation component, maybe from Mexico it's 50 cents, right? So obviously transportation is playing a big role in terms of what we pay at the with our American Express. I was going to say at the cash register, but not a lot of people are paying at the cash register these days. Anyway, so I think that China is just it's really, now that they've come out today and talked about, oh yeah, we'll honor our phase one and, our agricultural buys and all this stuff. I mean, it's proven fact that they haven't even honored 25% of their original commitment. So I think it remains to be seen just how robust that is. Of course, I think China may be doing that as a way to placate the current administration and just wait its time out in case there is a change in administrations. So who knows? Biden may just shock the world and say, "Hey, we'll end the tariffs and we'll go from there." So we don't know what he'll do. But I think it's interesting to see that for example, a brilliant group like Gartner Group had predicted that by 2023, a third of organizations would be moving their sourcing away from China. And as Dan Gardner pointed out, it takes years really to plan to move your sourcing away, right? So, but then you look at a survey the American Chamber of Commerce did in China, and 84% of the members said they have no plans to move away from China. So, it's kind of like the classic scenario. We'll wait to see who's right to see what happens about this. But I think that it's definitely something that is keeping employment at where it is in terms of the retailers and importers, exporters that are existing and working with staffing that maybe have less staffing than they did 6 months ago or 4 months ago. But there's also a protocol that would say the volumes have normalized, so why isn't that staffing back, right? Somebody's got to be buying the materials. Materials are way up. I mean, are we going to fall off a cliff in October, November? Right now, it doesn't look like we're going to fall off a cliff. I'm still holding out that $4,000 ocean rates are in the cards if there's a contraction of space and more manipulation of allocations in the Trans-Pacific. I think we saw a dip down, and the carriers maybe bought a little bit too much space on too quickly. But I think that that's something that they can they'll see it, that they'll adjust to. And I think last but not least, I think I start to look at all the people that are furloughed. I mean, I have some executives that have been vice presidents that have had really great jobs in the import-export space. And I think that one of the things I want to continue to talk about and promote is kind of this idea of fractional leadership, where a VP that was with a major importer can run the import department on a fractional basis of, say, 5, 6, 7 small importers around the country. You have to remember, one of the things that's really interesting about ocean freight is that there's a lot of companies out there that have less than 10 employees, right? And to bring even some stalwart, some senior leadership in there, there's a stalwart of their game, right? And top of things. And they charge X dollars per hour. I mean, it could even be $150 an hour. I mean, it could be a great way for someone to make a living. So I'm kind of bantering around how to contribute back to this industry that's treated me so well, and think about doing some potential training on creating a fractional approach to help displaced logistics folks gain entry into their own entrepreneurial centric world. And it took me a long time, as an entrepreneur, to kind of say, hey, this self-employment thing is really worth it. I mean, here I am, the son of immigrants, talking to you on LinkedIn Live, and I just closed a deal where I have a 500,000 container client that's going to work with me, and I feel it's a great opportunity for all of us, right, to go out there and look at the world. Great question from Florian. Time to focus on improving transatlantic trade relationships. I do, Florian. I think that, as you say, that comes with many advantages for millions of Americans, and it's a great time for us to start, buying, from Europe, and solidifying those relationships for sure. I think that all too often the focus on the Trans-Pacific gets us a little bit googly-eyed, right, in terms of like, this is our mantra, and then people say, well, let the European cargo on the beer and the cheese and the wine flow as it may, because that stuff is pretty static, right? I mean, I did a study a couple of weeks ago and showed that beer from Europe had not changed at all, right, in terms of the cargo flow. But I think Florian's right. I think this is the time, and I think we see a lot of tier one auto manufacturers, for example, or auto suppliers that are coming out of places like my old stomping grounds in the Czech Republic, where I lived for 10 years. And I do see incredible growth, or the potential, for bandwidth growth with those transatlantic relationships. And certainly, if somebody is going to look at nearshoring in Mexico and Central America and the Caribbean, I'd have to look at the economics, but I certainly would reach out to, tender something in Europe. Again, currency, labor costs are all going to play into factor. How complicated my product is. Does it, involve, is it a high, unit cost, right? And if I can get the components produced in Europe, I'll give you a good example, like my camera rig here that you can't see, but I mean, my great video consultant set me up on a Sony cam, really advanced, almost TV grade cam, and the parts that are holding it and all the stuff that is in the rigging, it's all made in Italy. Very expensive, right? But I mean, the stuff is rock solid. So you could have my small kids come in here, and they're not gonna. It's gonna stay there, right? It's gonna, unless the house moves. But I love the idea of building up Europe as a platform for increased velocity of shipments. Unfortunately, the numbers have gone down, right? And we're seeing a little bit of a down cadence in the volume numbers from Europe. But certainly, if I'm sitting in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm a high-end machine shop, I am definitely going to try to negotiate the heck out of European suppliers, because there's a lot of high-end machinery, automation equipment, automotive, mechanical, industrial automation. That stuff does really, really well out of Europe. Garments and textiles, not so much so, right? Because of the low value and the labor costs in Mexico, China, and Ecuador, and El Salvador, and Bangladesh, and places like that. So I think that Europe has a great potential. And I think that when you can start to bring clients the improve velocity and for example, there are ways that consultants can go out there and help beneficial cargo owners find partners, right, that fit the bill of what they're looking to do. We're talking about a whole sub segment of the industry that Florian raises. There's great abilities for consultants to go out there and get a piece of the action if they work with a New York machine tooling company, and they switch their production, or they make some parts in Bremerhaven, Germany, or Toulouse, France, or it's a great opportunity, the globalism that we live and work in. So I think that I look at my my threat board in terms of what I'm really up on right now. It's just the cadence on China, the decreases, unfortunately, the decreases in Europe inbound is alarming. And I think that we need to see those numbers rotate up a little bit if we're going to have a full recovery. But you've been watching the Power Hour edition of OK Boomer Live. It's my idea to keep these to be a 10, 15, 20-minute session. I think we hit the sweet spot today of what I wanted to cover, and certainly I appreciate your time, your comments. As always, please reach out to me if you need to pick up the phone. I'm always available, 860-200-8868, and encourage all my LinkedIn followers and friends to continue to ply me with ideas on not only further episodes, future episodes of OK Boomer Live, but let's find ways to creatively pull those lost dollars out of the hidden rocks in the seabed and help bring America and our American friends and family out that are displaced. Let's help bring them back to work. Let's get American excitement and ideas within our retail, our vertical, chemicals and tech and industrial automation, and resources, natural resource spaces, and let's make a lot of really good things happen. I know that there's just a great amount of brain power here on LinkedIn, and I'm Steve Ferreira, CEO of Ocean Audit, trying to do my little part in the world to help us all in our space of ocean freight, supply chain, and logistics. So back tomorrow with another, hopefully, back tomorrow with another Power Hour. Thank you for all the time today on OK Boomer Live. Steve Ferreira, CEO, and I'll also be on the Ryan Swanstrom's show this Friday, and more details on that. So Ryan, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong a little bit there, but it's just payback for the way you treated Ferreira the other day. I'm just kidding. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.